The print shop worker stood frozen in place as the steel door slowly creaked open. He could hear the frustrated screeching of the hinges as it closed behind him once more. His heart raced and his breath came in short gasps as he tried to steady himself against the cold concrete walls. He reached for the holster at his side, gripping the familiar weight of his trusty PL pistol. It was a weapon he had grown fond of for its unassuming accuracy, especially after adding a silencer and collimator sight. With a Vino Torres slung over his back, he hesitated about using it on whatever creature might be approaching from outside. The figure that emerged into view was grotesque and pitiful. Once human, this being now bore only remnants of what remained below its waist. Its intestines hung down like corroded lianas across the floor, leaving wet trails along the cold concrete beneath it. The print shop worker recoiled, but not out of fear. Instead, he returned the gun to its holster and instead used the toe of his boot to shove the intruder away from the entrance. The creature made no sound or reaction as it hit the ground between the staircase railings with a sickening thud. A moment later, there was a gurgling noise followed by an acrid smell. The creature's body seemed to dissolve under the acidic substance released by its own remains. The print shop worker took a deep breath, trying to calm himself before turning his attention to the task at hand. He stepped closer to the window, peering through the murky glass at the desolate landscape beyond. The moon cast a dim light upon the scene, revealing twisted forms that resembled nothing so much as giant snails crawling across the cracked pavement. These creatures were known as Nagas, harbingers of death. They had once been humans, but their bodies had succumbed to the toxic environment and mutated into these monstrous beings. Their long, thin fingers and sharp claws scraped against the broken pavement, while their many tiny teeth lined their distended mouths. The print shop worker drew back from the window, taking care to avoid any lingering gaze from the Nagas lurking below. He knew better than to tempt fate. Even looking at them too long could bring misfortune. Instead, he retreated to the kitchenette area of the room, where he kept supplies for emergencies. He pulled out a can of meat, some hardtack biscuits, saltpeter salami, and a bottle of clean water. After laying everything out on the countertop, he began to eat, savoring each bite as he considered the events that had led humanity to this point. People were wrong about the dates, he murmured to himself. They must have misunderstood Mayan symbols when they wrote 2012. Perhaps they hoped to trick fate by writing false numbers. But no, the end did not come then. It came much later, decades later. Humanity had finally calmed down from its endless wars and turned its collective energy towards exploring space. When they finally managed to conquer cancer and deadly diseases, that's when the real disaster struck. He paused in his eating, recalling the stories passed down through generations. A massive asteroid impact, codenamed Chicxulub, caused widespread devastation. Entire continents collapsed, leaving only tectonic plates drifting aimlessly in the ocean. 60% of the world population is believed to have perished in those first few days. But that wasn't the worst part. As the dust settled, a black, viscous liquid seeped up from the crater. Scholars argued that it was petroleum, but it was something far more sinister. This essence contained samples of preserved life, which quickly infected the Earth, transforming all living organisms into horrifying abominations. Birds, fish, and animals became vile creatures bent on destroying mankind. Humans launched nuclear missiles in desperation, determined to survive and continue the human race. After finishing his meal, the print shop worker prepared for bed. Tomorrow would be a difficult day, one that he had spent weeks preparing for. He needed to make it past the Nagas guarding the exit and reach the Central Digital Archive, where he hoped to find messages left behind by the ancient Maya. Arming himself with precious ammunition, he lay down on his makeshift mattress, wrapping himself in a blanket for warmth. Closing his eyes, he allowed himself a brief moment of respite before the challenges ahead.